Hello and welcome back to Let's Write an Adventure, our ongoing live stream where we're creating a custom campaign in real time. I'm RJ Kerr, your host as always, and today we are going to be picking up with one of the investigative adventures, specifically one we're calling the uh, Ghost Ship Castle Caper that we've been working on for the last few episodes here and finishing out the puzzle or the challenge section of that today, hopefully. But let's back up because if this is your very first time ever watching this live stream, you might be wondering what we're working on here. We don't want you to be lost. So, we are currently building out a campaign from scratch with a custom domain of dread, showing you all the thought processes that go into it, all of the struggles and tribulations, all of the cool ideas, all that kind of stuff. You really to see every step of the process here. And we've done a lot so far. So far, we have figured out how our characters are going to get into this domain of dread through a portal that opens up on the Blood Moon. And we've talked about some of the motivations that might take them through that portal and reasons why they might do it. We have figured out where they're going to land in this domain of dread, a shanty town that we call Darkport, which is on the edge of an inland sea. And in fact, we've realized that this whole domain of dread takes place in and around this inland sea that used to be this basin of civilization, a thriving metropolis that is now destroyed and flooded to form this inland sea. We even know what villain is being held within our domain of dread, a entity that we're calling Ovander, an elemental evil. We figured out our very first adventure where our characters are briefly kidnapped and enslaved and have to escape their captors, and in doing so, discover the existence of a long lost artifact. This artifact giving them, or giving whoever controls it, some power over this domain. And it becomes apparent to our characters that this is their best way out, that finding this artifact is their best way out. And so now we're working on a part where the characters get proactive. Everything up until now is they've been kind of responding to what's been happening in the adventure. And now we want to really capitalize on their agency and let them explore the world and look for clues. And so we've been using a node structure style to really let our characters kind of let loose throughout the world. The idea being that instead of giving them kind of a plot structure which leads them from point A to point B, we're using a node where we're creating these investigative scenes, these which are full of clues that lead to other nodes, and really allowing them to go into this in kind of any order, but it's still giving us some structure to write with, so we don't have to make this all up from scratch. And we're populating the world with these clues that will eventually lead them to the artifact's location. And so we've been building out one of those investigative scenes that we're tentatively calling the Ghost Ship Castle Caper, because this is a heist style adventure where there's a multitude of shipwrecks that have gathered around a natural stone arc off a seaside cliff, and the ships have been broken down and repurposed into a castle like structure, becoming a Sahuagin stronghold. And here the characters are looking for, among other things, a ship's log that has clues as to the artifact's location. And of course, there will be other clues in here. We've already worked some of those in, such as a Lacantha prisoner in one of the cells of the stronghold who has some information about one of the other locations, specifically the moving aisle investigative scene. And so we are using a modified 5-room dungeon structure for this, in which I'm calling the 5 scene structure because it's the same sort of setup, but we're broadening kind of our concept of it so that it's not locked to physical places and it's more about moments in the adventure. Specifically, things like the entry where the characters are rewarded for planning their heist or doing some reconnaissance, figuring out their plan of action before they kind of just dive in. And we'll be filling that out with information about that they can learn prior to the adventure, things they can learn before they get into the stronghold. Uh, we've developed their setback, which again is pretty simple in a heist. It's what happens when things go wrong. What is the status of the various action groups, or i.e., our encounters that appear in here? Are they are they static? Are they active and wandering around? Are they on alert looking for intruders? And what happens when they raise the alarm? To that end, what happens if the characters get captured, if they get overwhelmed? We've outlined all of this kind of stuff here as part of our setback and you know room two, scene two of our five scene dungeon. Scene three is where we're working on it here, and in the five room dungeon model, that'd be called a puzzle. I would conceptualize it more as a challenge in the five scene dungeon. And here we are outlining some of the places the characters are going to have to look to find this ship's log. And since we have already established our action groups, our various encounters throughout these various spaces, we're not really having to worry too much about that at this point. Now we're just giving ourselves some description, adding some hazards and some treasure and some flavor to these places to give ourselves a little bit of, narrative jumping off points, some toys to play with as we actually run the adventure for ourselves. The last things that we'll need to do before we round out this adventure are we need to work on our climax. And this would be room four, our BBEG, so our big bad evil guy. Well, instead, we're conceptualizing this as more of a climactic event that occurs in our five scene dungeon model. And really, what's happening is that the characters, they get their reward. They collect uh, the ship's log, and now they've got to get out with it. But getting out should be different than getting in. And so we've come up with sort of this very loose idea that perhaps maybe some dignitaries allied with the Sahuagin arrive at about that time and throw the whole stronghold into, I don't want to say chaos, but kind of upend the day to day routine, making getting out different than getting in. And then, last but not least, of course, we'll need a reward at the end, and that one's pretty simple: the ship's log and all the clues that it holds, leading them to their next investigative scenes. So let's go ahead and jump back into this, where we can finish out rounding out some of the descriptions of our keyed locations as part of our puzzle here. Uh, and so we've got two rooms left of the rooms that we've kind of brainstormed here. The first is our guard post, and then we have the throne room. Why don't we go ahead and start with the throne room? Because I already kind of have an idea for what that might look like. Now, of course, this is an interactive live stream, so as you have your own thoughts, opinions, ideas, suggestions, or just questions that you want to ask or things you want to chat about, toss them into the chat. I love to hear from you guys as we work on this stuff. Some of the most creative ideas come from you all. So please hop on in there and let me know what you think as we go. All right, so let's start with the description of our throne room. Okay, so we had already kind of given ourselves a little bit of an idea of something that might appear in this space last time. We came up with this. Well, I came up with the idea of a suspended skeleton for the rafters. You guys came up with the idea of a plesiosaur skeleton, which is much cooler than just like a whale skeleton or or a megalodon skeleton or something along those lines. So we've got a plesiosaur skeleton that's suspended from the rafters of this room, of this, and kind of hanging over the throne, giving it, making it more impressive. The throne room itself, I believe, is half flooded, so there's water in this space here. Um, and here we've got our Sahuagin Baron, where he spends most of his time. So let's think of this. Let's think of this room as So here's a thought. So far, our half flooded rooms have all been kind of like, they're flooded up to the waist and you can kind of walk in them. And the idea being that, uh, you know, your terrestrial creatures and your aquatic creatures are all kind of can engage in these spaces equally without too much difficulty. Well, what if this one is a little bit deeper? What if this is the deep end of the pool? And while yes, there's air in here and it's not fully flooded, perhaps this kind of curves down, and creatures have to swim in this room. And so they might have to swim at the surface and tread water, and maybe we've got floating benches or something like that for terrestrial creatures to sit on or what have you. Um, and maybe we take advantage of that floating, making a floating throne towards the other end of the room here, and then we've got the plesiosaur skeleton across the top here, and maybe there are other decorations that kind of line the walls. Um, it, so we kind of have, maybe it's a little bit shaped kind of like two ships' hulls, kind of inverted and put on top of each other. So we've got a big sort of arch ceiling, and then it's an arch kind of basin as well that this water is in here. Um, Maybe we have something along those lines for that, and so that this room really is made to be comfortable for the Sahuagin. It can accommodate others, but made mostly to be comfortable for the Sahuagin who spend their time here. Um, that seems to make sense to me. Let me know what you think. If you've got some other ideas, chime on in. Um, okay. So in the meantime, let's see here. Let's see here. Ben Elder says maybe the walls can have ship figureheads like trophies. Yeah, yeah, they absolutely could. We've got some trophies that we are working into other places, like the Great Hall and the barracks room. But there should be some trophies, I think, in the throne room as well. And a ship's figurehead. Um, Ooh, that would be cool to kind of put them down the at the bottom of this basin kind of space, and so they kind of like jut out from the sides of the wall, giving it kind of almost an artistically spiky kind of feel. It doesn't create a hazard or anything like that, but it puts a little bit of texture in there, and creates some of these cool shapes underwater. Um, and the fact with the figureheads, which would normally be out of the water on a ship, sunk in and kept beneath the water here, would kind of give another sort of sense of domination to them, making them feel, I think, a little more like trophies, as opposed to just um, you know pieces of artwork that they've attached here. I like that idea. Thanks, Ben. Let's put that in here. Okay, so uh, this throne room is made of two ships' hulls clamshelled together. Um, Together, giving the room, giving the space a sweeping, vaulted ceiling and a deep basin of a floor. The room is half flooded and too deep to stand in, forcing all creatures to fly or swim. Benches made of old planks and barrels float in the room, giving terrestrial visitors a place to sit. The throne itself is made of. Ooh, what should the throne be made of? Maybe maybe animal, maybe like whale bones and or plesiosaur bones to that regard. So maybe like bones, and then like the back piece could be kind of There could be kind of arches create with a like one of those skeletons, like the shark's teeth, right? That's kind of what I'm getting at here. And so it could be, uh, it could kind of arc up and over. Um, since the Sahuagin are kind of a shark worshipping sort of people. Um, let's see here. Ben Elder says ship wheels. Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, maybe it could be. Maybe it could be both. Maybe we could have ship wheels as kind of part of the sides, um, carved with ornate relief. Says Jonathan Frost. Um, yeah, maybe we could have ship's wheels that have been carved, uh, and then we have maybe some, and they've been carved with sort of those sharky decorations, and then maybe we have uh, the shark jaws kind of lining the back piece of the throne, so you have kind of arcs up and over the Baron here, and you have the teeth sticking out, and gives a little bit of a little bit more menace to it. Um, but that the ship's wheels would help it float, like the wooden structure of the base of it would help it float. Um, okay, yeah, yeah, I like that. It's made. Let's see. So the throne itself is made of wood with ship's wheels for the sides and um, shark's jaws decorating the backing. The wood and bone is ornately carved to depict the sea's mightiest predators. Um, and let's see here. Should be R. We got a couple other comments here. Let's see here. Ben Elder says, empty treasure chest to help it float. Ooh, yeah, maybe that's kind of what's underneath the seat itself. And then Jonathan Frost says, does the throne move throughout the room with the leader on it being pulled by slaves? That's exactly kind of what my thought process was on this, was that the Baron never has to get up. He could just have his throne moved wherever he needs to go within the room here, especially because we've got, his priest and warriors in this space here. Um, yeah, so we could absolutely do that. Um, let's see here. Two, yeah, ooh, outrigger chest. So yeah, I was thinking about the chest being kind of under the seat, but actually his outriggers would be cooler, and then that gives the something to hold on to when they kind of push his chair into various places. Two chests. Um, uh, jut outward from uh, outriggers on the sides of the throne, keeping it afloat. A plesiosaur skeleton decorates the rafters while the figure heads of ships jut from the submerged walls. Cool. All right. And let's see here. We've got Ben says a mind shackled giant turtle. That could be a cool idea too. Uh, absolutely. We've got a Let's hold on to that idea though, because we have this moving aisle that is a shrine to Evander set upon the back of an enormous dragon turtle. Maybe we have uh, more giant turtle stuff in that one there. Um, so um, let's make a note. Let's comment include mind shackled giant turtles question mark could be cool, but it will fit thematically, I think, with that moving aisle, which is probably one of the next things we're going to work on here. Terrific. I like that idea. All right. So let's see here. Cool. We should definitely have some treasure in throne room. We can figure out what that is later, though, but it's probably art pieces, I would think. Kind of decorate the space. So let's clean that up, and let's start working on the guard posts description then. Okay. And the guard posts, I think, are pretty simple. There's more than one of them for sure. And we have that they're occupied by 6 sentries, and the 2 are on patrol at any given time, kind of moving around the space. So it's one of those areas where we're going to have several guard posts when we actually create the map for this, which reminds me we're going to have to do that at some point, is actually make this map. A-okay, though. Let's keep them. So I think these are relatively simple spaces. They serve a certain purpose. They're meant to watch the fortress, but since this is an aquatic fortress that stabs out into the terrestrial world, we probably need some guard posts that are above the water line and below the water line. And so what did we say? We said that the guard posts were half flooded. Let's say half flooded, flooded, or none. And there's some of all of the above in there. Let's see. At a guard post, there would be arrow slits, well, spear ports, arrow slits at some of them. They would have a good view outward. The ones underwater would probably have grated windows, to look through so things couldn't climb in through the windows as easily. The one above lands wouldn't necessarily need those, but they could have them. Or above the water could have them. Okay, let's run with this. Let's say this simple functional space is designed to keep watch on the stronghold exterior. Some are above water and some below. Those above the water have arrow slits in the walls and open views to the sea and sky beyond. The underwater posts have spear ports and grated windows, giving an obstructed but protected view of the sea. Each connects to a the other guard posts via a walk or swimway. Which are constantly patrolled. Okay, cool. So we don't have to go nuts with these guys here. They're functional spaces. We want to give them a little bit of want to give a little bit of flexibility here that let us, kind of use them over and over and over again throughout the space here as we're building this out. Let's see here. Ben Elder says maybe a portcullis of ship's masts. Yeah, we have that at the gatehouse. We haven't specified that it's made of ship's masts, but it's made of stout wooden beams, the portcullis. And I would imagine that you'd have the gatehouse, and then you'd have on either sides of it. We'll see when we make the map, but we have the gatehouse, and then on either side of it, we'd probably have guard posts, and then they would be kind of set throughout on various levels of this stronghold. In fact, we'd probably have to have kind of 2 levels of guard posts. Ones that ring underwater and ones that ring the surface here. Yeah, very, very cool. Okay, we've got a couple minutes left here, so let's see what's something else that we can toss in here in the next couple minutes that maybe we could build out. Let's go up to some of our sea life hazards here, and let's see what we might be able to build out here, because we've put some of those hazards throughout. I think we've already built one of these, so we should scroll down here as I recall. Yeah, we did the oh no, we didn't build it out. We did the anemone altar. We built that one out because it's not a general hazard, it's a unique hazard. Okay. So let's hit this blowfish poison one, because we have the door that's protected by a needle trap, where the needle is the spine of a sea urchin and is coated with blowfish poison, a paralytic. So let us come over to our blowfish poison needle trap. And let's copy the description there as well. So we don't have to completely write that out on our own. Some doors are protected by... Oh, I already wrote protected by. Any creature who triggers this trap must make a DC, what do we think, for a Constitution saving throw? Maybe a 12, what do you say? DC 12, because we don't want this to be too crazy, since being paralyzed is kind of crazy. Ben Elder's saying a 16. Okay. Yeah, I mean, if we want to make it tough, we could do that. These are going to be level 3 characters. Well, actually, we are guessing that they're level 3 characters at this point, because frankly, we won't know. Um, but yeah, we could let's. So I'm saying 12. You're saying 16. Why don't we split the difference? Let's make it 14. All right, let's make it a 14. Uh, we'll even it out there. So DC 14, um, Constitution saving throw. Any creature triggers this trap must make a DC 14 Constitution saving throw, or become paralyzed. Cool, easy breezy. And that brings us to the very end of our session today, of our 30 minutes here tonight. So thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it. I love all the activity in the chat. If you have enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and leave a comment. All that kind of stuff really helps the channel grow. It helps people find me and helps me stay motivated to keep doing all this kind of stuff, to be completely frank. In addition to that, I am not just a guy who makes adventures on the internet. I am also a professional dungeon master. So if you want to hop into one of my games and see if I know what I'm doing, you can check me out at startplaying.games/GM/RJ Kerr. Again, that's startplaying.com/GM/RJ Kerr, and the link is in the description of this video here as well. Um, all right. Thank you again, and I look forward to seeing you all at our next session on Friday, our special every other Friday one now. So that will be at 8:30 p.m. Central Time if you're in the U.S. So not quite the same bat time, same bat channel, but very similar. And then we'll also be picking up with our normal Monday, Wednesday next week as well. All right. Thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you all soon. Bye now.